Robbie Williams Rewind.
Welcome to Robbie Williams Rewind. We are the champions. I'm Matt.
And I'm Lucy.
And along with help from special guest fans, we take you on an in-depth rewind through the solo career of multi-award-winning singer, songwriter and entertainer Robbie Williams.
Today we're talking about the rest of Swings Both Ways, Robbie's second swing album, as well as the Swings Both Ways tour of 2014 and a couple of B-sides.
Mm-hmm.
And our special guest is Jocelyn from America.
Hello, Jocelyn.
Hello. Long time no see.
Yeah, it has.
Really, way too long. I'm very happy to be here. I'm nervous, but I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you
anytime
here.
I can talk about Robbie Williams, it's like makes me happy. So we don't get too many conversations over here about that.
So I think the first time I met you was actually during this album tour at the Palladium.
Possibly.
Yeah. But we'll come to that.
The Palladium.
Oh, yeah.
My big secret that's not really a secret, but it kind of is a secret, which I'll explain later.
Oh, what a great cliffhanger.
So
We've queued in many, many places with Jocelyn.
Yeah.
Nice places, not so nice places.
Yeah.
On the side of the street, you know.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. If I come over in October, I could be spending my birthday sleeping on the side of a street somewhere there. I'll make sure I get a nice, comfy mattress. So,
Jocelyn, tell us how you became a Robbie fan, especially as you're American. You know.
Well, I was thinking about that, and there is a way that I became, but it was it's not even a back door, because when you have a back door, you know that there's a place. I didn't know there was a place. I heard some lyrics, and I now know they're from Supreme, somewhere on a radio or whatever. Had no idea who this person was, and luckily it was when, not back when I was in the wagon, but when there was internet. So I could research and see what those lyrics were connected to. So it kind of started with that. So I heard his music, and because I'm in America, it was kind of hard to find it. So I had to order it from good old, online here and get the CDs. And so I became quite entranced with his voice first. So first his voice, then the lyrics, and then finally, believe it or not, over here they showed Nebworth, but it was on BBC America, and people think that BBC America has BBC shows. No, they show Star Trek all the time.
Oh.
But for some reason, they showed the Nebworth show over and over, and that was back when you had to record it with your, VHS tape.
Yeah.
And I was entranced. It was like, that's that guy. Oh my gosh. So then he kind of went on his hiatus. And so I had to learn about him online through YouTube and all of that, and learn about the music. So that's why my knowledge base is really weird, because I don't know anything in order. I only know, could I get this Robbie Williams album, this CD sent to me that always had to be imported and everything. So that's where it all started. And then it just kind of ballooned out from that. And probably even up until when I went to see him, I still didn't have a good grasp of his place and everything, and the albums and all of that. I remember trying to get to go see some of those shows when he came back, those little small venues, and it was like, why can't I get them? The tickets went on sale last week. So, so it took a long time to figure all that out and get it together. And I'm not sure I still have it really together. The biggest thing was learning about, why does he always talk about TT? What the heck is that? So I only know about him as a solo person. I only think of him as a solo person, and I will make all of the Take That fans shudder when I say I always think of that as his band, that he used to have. But yes, so I only know him. But that's where it started. It started just with some snippets. So I still just love his voice. I love his lyrics. They were like nothing I'd ever heard when I was growing up listening to music, because my music is kind of convoluted. It's just gone on from there. And there was a real connection immediately. I mean, there were words that I went, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. And I also think what drew me in with him, I saw lots of videos of interviews with him, and I didn't just like his music. I liked this person that I was seeing. He was so relatable. He talked about things that I could connect with. And then when we got involved with chats and all of that, that just solidified it. There was one night that finally just solidified it, and I knew that, well, I'll just say it. I was in love with him, not romantically, but like a mom was in love with him, and I still am. So that's just how it is. I do love Robbie Williams. So,
so do you have a favorite song?
I knew you were going to ask that, and no, I really don't. But I will tell you the first one that I really, really liked lyrically because I thought it was so clever was Come Undone. So I still do like that song. And then I realized what it meant after the fact because I then learned more about him. So I realized what that probably meant. Mm-hmm. The one that has really touched me is a new one. And it actually made me cry the first time I heard it, and I gasped. And that was The Impossible, because it was like, he knows exactly how I feel about all of this stuff. That's like really weird. Oh my gosh. And so it was very touching to hear that song.
Yeah.
And then maybe I used to like, and I still like, Spread Your Wings a lot, because I nearly had a wreck with that song because I didn't know about Jocelyn Brown. And so all I heard was Jocelyn, and I got so excited that I nearly had a wreck because had the CD and I was like, wait a minute, that can't be right. And I kept replaying. I was like, oh my gosh, my name. So, and when I tell those stories, I always think of, there's a John Lennon story where he had someone who was camped out in the back of his house in the garden. And he finally went and approached this poor guy. And the guy was doing just what I said, but you know all this stuff about me and you've written these songs. And, John Lennon was very kindly saying, I don't know you. We've just connected through this music, but I don't really know you. And I always think, gosh, that's what I kind of sound like. Like, oh my God, he's just touched. But no, I'm sensible, and I know that those songs have touched a lot of people that way. But those are the ones that really come to mind. But to be honest, there's no song that I ever skip. There's no song that I ever skip when I play the CDs. Yeah. There's no song I ever groan when they say, oh, he's going to sing that again. No, anything's perfect to me because I love his voice. Yeah. I absolutely adore his voice. And I even liked it on that one song I listened to, which we're going to talk about. That was quite interesting. But I love his voice. And then the lyrics they're so clever and so they just really touch me. They touch, as I keep saying, they touch my heart and they touch my head. So, that's where I am with that. So, no, I don't really have one particular favorite. So,
you're not alone there.
So,
do you have a favorite album, maybe?
No, because I don't know the albums well enough to tell you that. Okay. I will tell you the one that got me really excited, though. They did sell one over here. It's the one where he's hanging upside down on the cover.
Escapology.
I told you I'm not very good. Escapology, yes. They actually sold it in our department store, Target, which is kind of it's not really Marks and Spencer, but whatever. And they sold it there. And I remember going in and it was there. It was actually featured. And I could buy his album in America and take it to my car and unwrap it and play it. And I was so excited. So that one has a wonderful memory. But as far as a particular album, no, I like all of them. Every single one of them.
What about a favorite video?
Not really, no. I like all of the videos too. I will say Love Light's a nice video. Mm-hmm. And but I don't know that I have a particularly favorite. I do remember the first time I also knew that it was cemented that I loved Robbie Williams. When I was younger, I had this passion for Tom Jones. This is sort of embarrassing, but I still love Tom Jones. I love his voice. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize why maybe I loved him when I was younger. And I bought some CDs of his show that was shown over here. Well, now I can see why that maybe I did. They're very embarrassing to look at with those shirts and pants and wiggling. But I did not know the connection between Rob and Tom Jones. And so it came on at the end of some video I was watching that was a Robbie Williams one. And I went, oh, he's also done some. It was the Brit Award.
Yeah.
It is. But, he was with Tom Jones. Oh, my God. So that just sealed it. So.
Yeah. So do you have a best memory or moment with Robbie? I mean, I know you've got lots.
You've got lots, yeah.
And bear in mind,
I do have lots of memories.
Doing another episode with you as well, so you might want to save a couple for that episode.
Well, I'm always very funny about talking about any of those moments because they always feel very personal.
Yeah.
And I know that Regine, my dear friend Regine, we always felt very fortunate that he was very kind to us, and we always got a little acknowledgement. Pretty much, we just got used to always having an acknowledgement, but then that's because we kind of stick out. So I'm trying to think. I think the ones that really have struck me when he finally put together from the online chat and when he would do those live kind of things and have the chat going, and I realized he had connected who I was, who Jocelyn was with that USAJ and all of that.
Yeah.
And we had a comfortable moment. And probably it wasn't an in-person moment because I've had in-person moments that are a lot of fun and they're funny and we're usually kind of silly with each other. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he feels comfortable because I will say this. I don't idolize Robbie Williams. I love Robbie Williams like I love my son. Maybe not quite as much, but pretty close. And so that's where I am with that. But one night there was a chat. It was back when they used to kind of lock you in on the chat.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about all of his insecurities. And again, I didn't know much about him. And it was like, but why do you feel this way? And we just had this nice chat. And then we had some more over that. So those are probably the memories I treasured the most because it was me feeling like I was getting to know this person. And that's why I really love him because he's this wonderful person as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
I know he's a rich man. I know he's a famous man. I know he's not my best friend. He's not we're not on Christmas card lists for each other or anything. But I just really like him. He has feelings about things that I feel, I think. At least he's expressed those. And there's that connection there. So I don't know about specific moments, just some silly things. I don't know if that's what people want to hear or not. But I tend to kind of guard those because they're kind of, I've seen how invasive people are with him. Like I was actually just talking about this yesterday. I said, I really don't have a lot of pictures with him because I never grab my phone and take a picture or anything. I never do that. I kind of wish I did sometimes, but the only times I've seen myself with him, someone else has videoed that, and either I have felt that was intrusive or sometimes I like it because it's like, oh, there I am. But So I don't know that I have one special moment. There's a funny moment that happened when we were all behind one of the studios in London. He had done, I don't know if it was Loose Women or something.
Yeah.
I had given him a Christmas bag full of silly stuff. And it must have been Loose Women because I think Ida was there too. And he came over to give me a kiss through the bars. And I kept putting my cheek up my mouth. He said, will you stop? Just give me your lips. And I went, oh, okay. And so we did that. And I thought afterwards, that was kind of stupid. And oh gosh, I hope I didn't have bad breath and everything. But I mean, that was kind of the relationship. It was kind of like, okay. I mean, it was more of a convenience thing. There was nothing the least bit. It was just sweet. It was just sweet. So funny little things like that have happened. So, and he's been very kind to me. He's been very kind. So, and I appreciate that. So
can you explain what Robbie means to you?
Well, I think what everyone always says, which is that whole community. He's helped build a community for me around the world. That's certainly someone who lived in Middle America never realized. And I think unless you're an American, meaning not a transplant, you tend to not be as aware of other people and other cultures and everything when you're stuck firmly in America. America tends to be very provincial. So that's been the main thing. But I think on top of that, for me personally, it made me feel that I'm not alone with some of these thoughts. I have a lot of anxiety, and I always think, like right now, I will be thinking of all the people rolling their eyes when they listen to this or turning it off because they're going to go, oh, please, not her.
I'm sure that's not happening.
No.
Well, I hope not, because they'll love to listen to you, because you guys are very agreeable. And maybe people just want to hear, like, what does she have to say? But I felt like I wasn't alone anymore with some of those thoughts. But probably the best thing that he means to me is Regine, because I developed a very strong friendship, really a sisterhood with Regine from France. And that meant the world to me, and it still does. And I still feel her presence a lot, and I felt her all through Australia. But it's because of him that I met her, and that would have never happened without him. So, our connection started with his music and just enjoying him, and then it just spread from there. So, so it's probably based around Regine, to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
And if you could ask him something or say one thing to him, I mean, I'm imagining you've said everything there is to say.
You've had a few chats.
Well, the thing that I tell him all the time is he's very smart. And I know I get really annoyed when he makes comments about something to that effect, because even though I was a teacher for 40 years, I don't believe that being educated means you're smart. I think smart comes in all kinds of packages. And he obviously, and I hate that word, I don't even know what other word to use, but I would ask him, does he now realize his worth? Because I sometimes think he still doesn't understand his worth, but hopefully he does. So I guess I would ask him, do you now see how worthy you are of all this adulation, because you are worthy of it. So I don't know. There might be other silly questions I ask him. I've asked him some pretty rude things. Like my latest one was I asked him, when he was doing the thing with Ida, and I said, well, will we get fresh socks or the ones you've already worn? It was like, why do you always see those things?
That was so funny.
Oh my gosh. He always sees the things that are the rude ones. And then it was like, well, that's pretty specific there. I was like, well, no, I think we said niche. That's pretty niche there. And I was like, well, there might be some people who like that. I don't want to smell your socks or anything, but whatever. You never know. In fact, he took his socks off behind me when he was doing Loose Women one time.
Oh, yeah.
He was doing that monkey toe walk.
Yeah.
And he's back there shaking them. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know if you do this, Matt, but men seem to shake their socks out. And it was like, would you stop? That's disgusting. Ew.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy the monkey walk.
Oh, I don't
Did he
like
walk on his
feet
toes?
anyhow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
yes.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And he stood there next to me. Oh, talking about it. It was like, ick. Stop shaking those socks out. Poor Rob. I'm sorry. I'm telling these embarrassing things. Like I said, he's like my son to me.
Yes.
So I would scold him the same way. In my mom voice.
What lovely memories, Jocelyn.
Yeah.
A nice eclectic mix of different stories there.
Well, yeah, I do have some better stories. I have some things that are a little nicer and more profound, probably. But
yeah, but I think
that's what I like about him.
I respect the fact that you choose to keep your stories to yourself. That's actually, I think that's quite a nice thing, especially when he trusts you and you have a relationship with him over the years. I think that's nice that you can do that. I think that's a good thing, Too many people go around flaunting everything these days, don't they? And it doesn't always need to be that way.
Well, yeah. And I do think he has a very good heart. I think that Ida has a good heart too. We don't always have to like everything that our children do, but, and you don't have to approve of everything. So I'm not saying I think he's perfect because he's human. But I really, really like him and love him. So, yep. that's where it is. So, and if he ever hears this, sorry, I'm being so gushy and silly.
So if you tell us about the first time you actually came to see him.
That was at the O2 when he had just returned. He had done all those little small things, and he did the round
shows.
His turtleneck. Yeah. Well, is that what it was? Yes.
No,
See, I told you I don't know my.
The small shows were called the ballroom shows, and then it was the O2 shows in the round, wasn't it? Where you in 2012?
Okay. Yes. So I saw him at the O2. Yes, because I had also figured out about Take That and missed progress. Because again, I thought, oh well, it's only been selling tickets for a couple of weeks. I could probably get myself a ticket. Yeah, no. So anyhow, I went to see him at the O2. It was Thanksgiving Day in America. And even though I'd been going to England for decades, I went by myself on that trip, and I felt very empowered as a woman. And I saw him sitting in a seat, because that's what I thought you did, that you just got a seat. I didn't know there was this whole standing thing that people did. And in fact, when I saw everybody come in, I felt very sorry for them that they didn't have seats. And little did I know that's where I would want to be not too much longer after that. So, but it was absolutely exquisite. It was the best thing ever. It was the best thing to see that person, that I had been sort of researching, if you will, because when I first learned about him, it was kind of when he went on his hiatus there and wore his caftans and everything. So I could do research every summer and kind of figure out what Robbie Williams was about.
Yeah.
But at that show, I sat in this seat that I thought I had just won the golden ticket for. And, I didn't recognize him at first when he came in, because he came in through the crowd. And I had only seen videos of Robbie Williams. And so suddenly someone was singing, and I realized there was someone moving on this stage. And then I went, oh my gosh, that's him. So it was quite surreal. And the people around me, I think they had gotten tickets from like their businesses. So they weren't as into it as maybe I was, because at one point during the show, I looked around and some of the seats had vacated. They were kind of just interested in partying, and whatever. And I was mesmerized. I mean, So that was my first time to see him, and it was just the best ever. And so it's not stopped then.
No, it's never stopped since.
And then I learned about queuing from actually Shelby. Yeah. There was I don't know if you guys know about the really old app that there was where people just talked to each other. He wasn't a part of it, but there was a Robbie Williams fan app. That several of us belonged to, and that was Shelby and Haley and that whole crew. So it was right before the big Wembley show. So she wanted someone to, quote, queue with her. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know anything about this standing stuff. And it's embarrassing now to look back, but that was the first time I stood for him. I had only seen him with, a seat. And even though I ended up sort of in the back of that, whatever they called it, the golden circle or whatever, and it was a bit hard. I remember thinking I had met all these celebrities because I met, the girls from the UK, and that's where I met all the UK girls. I'd originally met them on this app. It was more like the forum is now, where you put something on there and then someone will respond later. Yeah. So it wasn't a live chat. Mm-hmm. And so suddenly I got to meet, Zoe, and I got to meet Karen and all of that crew. And so, that's where I met them. So that was my first experience with that. And that really made me realize, oh, I have to get up closer. And then once you get to that barrier, there's no going back. So
that's true.
Even my husband understands and appreciates that whole interaction with the stage and with the people up there and everything. So that's not part of his world right now, but it really is a whole different experience, as you well know. So,
yes.
Totally different. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's, like I said, it's not been a straight path. It's not even been through the back door. It's just kind of been like, oh, okay. And things have fallen into place. So,
right. Cool. So should we talk about Swings Both Ways?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
Well, I know we've got some good stories coming up. So we'll continue on with Swings Both Ways from where we left off, and we're starting with Little Green Apples.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Bobby Russell originally wrote Little Green Apples for American singer Roger Miller in 1968. It won 2 Grammys for Song of the Year and Best Country Song. It originally reached 19 in the UK, 39 in the US Billboard chart. It's also been covered by Johnny Mathis, Frank Sinatra, Dionne Warwick, The Temptations, Andy Williams, Bing Crosby, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett and Ben E. King. Rob's cover with Kelly charted at 25 in the Mexico Ingles airplay chart.
Rob said, Gary Nuttall, who plays in my band, once gave me for my birthday a Reader's Digest collection of country songs, and it instantly became one of my top 10 favourite albums, and Little Green Apples instantly became one of my favourite songs. It's a beautifully reassuring song, sung amazingly well by Glenn Campbell and Bobby Gentry. When you break it down, there's not many women who fit into the category of that song in this day and age. I'd never met Kelly Clarkson, but I've seen her receive awards and do interviews, and I really like her. She always makes me laugh, and she's always very honest, and she's got a belting voice.
Rob told Chris Heath in his Facebook track-by-track interview, "It's just a tune, a quality tune. It's like a painkiller for me, that song. I put it on and I'm transported to some velvet kind of room with plush seats and a bowl of Maltesers. It's just got..."
My favorite candy.
Yeah.
See, I told you there's always a connection.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just got that otherworldly, soporific quality about it. Kelly's got another one of those voices that Michael Bublé has. I get a good feeling from her. I don't even know if she knows me. She might have heard of me, I suppose. But she graciously said yes to doing the record, and I have one of the world's greatest voices on it.
Cool. So, Jocelyn, would you like to go first? What do you think of Little Green Apples?
Well, I have to be honest. Growing up, country music was the thing where I lived, and it was not my thing. So I was not always fond of that song. And so when it came on, I went, oh. But then I went, well, there's a connection to me in that song. This is, again, very egocentric, talking about Robbie Williams here. But there's the line of, it don't rain in Indianapolis. Well, at that time, I lived in Indianapolis. That's where I lived most of my adult life. I lived in a suburb of it. And so I would always laugh and go, yes, it does. So there was that strange little connection. But I know it's a very popular song. Reminds me of my family. My dad loved country music, and that was a song that I do remember hearing a lot growing up. So yeah, it has good memories for me. And, you know, it's just, that wasn't my genre or my artist. So it's funny that I've had to switch from something that I go, oh, to, oh, there you go. So, but that's my connection with it. So, yeah, I didn't know he felt so strongly about it. So,
yeah,
I'm glad it makes him feel happy.
If I feel like he's
anything that makes you feel like you're with a ball of Maltesers can't be all bad.
Yeah. I feel like he sings it in an American accent. Do you think he does?
I think he does. It has that twangy sound. And I know when he did, there were some of those songs, I'm trying to remember the ones he did in a more twangy sound. There's a video of him doing that. And it's amazing how well he can carry that off. Although he did one time say that wasn't his favorite genre, but he does seem to go back to it because he talks about Glenn Campbell and seems to love Glenn Campbell quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that definitely was the country person here. So, yeah, I don't know. But
what do you think, Matt?
That's my take on Little Green Apples.
Yeah.
Not too exciting.
Well, I'm not sure mine's that much more exciting. I think it's a beautiful storytelling song because, you know, when you when you sit and look at the lyrics, it really does tell a story, and it's a love duet and perfect harmonies from Rob and Kelly. I think their voices go really well together.
Yeah.
And Kelly's verse sometimes. So it's been changed, isn't it? Because when she sings it, it's been changed from she to he
Right.
for the duet, I guess. That's what I realised, unless the lyrics I were looking at were wrong. So that it became a male and female duet. Was it a duet before?
Right.
Originally, it wasn't.
No.
It was sung by one bloke,
No.
but Glenn Campbell
No, it was not a duet.
and
No.
Bobby
Growing up.
turned it into a duet.
Oh, I see.
Bobby
Okay.
is actually
Yeah.
a woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a really nice love song.
It doesn't have that. Well, there's country music, and most people associate country music with that whole twangy, she left me, my heart's broken kind of sound. This one's a little more, I think it crossed the two barriers as far as where it was played here. It wasn't typically played just on country stations. It would have been played on more popular music stations.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that people would have immediately identified it as a country song too.
Yeah.
And so it does have a bit different lyric style to it in terms of being more cheery and
That's true.
talking about some things.
I also was brought up on country music. my grandparents, not so much my parents, but my grandparents ran a country music club here in the UK. For many
funny.
years. And so I used to go to country music nights and wear my cowboy hat and that. They used to play that constantly in their house. So I think I've heard, of that era, I heard every single country music song going. So probably this one was played at some point.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind of thing I would choose to listen to often. But it also, I think because of the beautiful way it's arranged, it actually makes me feel a little bit sleepy when I'm listening to it. Not because it's bad, it's just very comforting, the way the harmonies work and everything.
Well, and as I said, I love his voice. So his voice singing that makes me like it.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis part makes me giggle, and so I don't turn it off.
I like. I just like the way he says, "And it don't snow in Indianapolis when the winter comes." Just the way he says it. I just love that bit.
Yeah.
I really like it.
True.
It's like a really lovely song, but it's not my favourite on the album. But I do enjoy their voices on it. It kind of makes me think a little bit about Rob and Ida with their kids. It talks about being up, having breakfast with the kids before the school run, and I just don't think that's something that Rob ever does. Never up for breakfast, and never does the school run in the morning. I should think.
Well, we have seen him on the
the children would be
before.
shocked.
I think he does the afternoon school run. I don't think he does the morning school run.
Yeah, I agree. I have a feeling it's like Daddy's up if he ever showed up.
Yeah, I
That
just can't
grumpy
see
guy
him hurrying to the breakfast table like they talk about.
Nah, I completely agree with that. So, and really, this album reminds me a lot of like show tunes. I guess I had the Emmys on last night and I was thinking about how those show tunes sound. And so many of the songs on this album to me remind me of something that could easily be in a show somewhere. And obviously one of them was for sure. Well, all of them kind of were, but in a play or whatever, a musical. So that's sort of where this fits into. I can see it being part of a big production somewhere. And I think that's what his voice reminds me of on this album, that it's, so. And a lot of them are show tunes, I guess.
I also listened to the original version of this by O.C. Smith. Don't know if you've ever heard it, but it was like almost painfully slow and dull, basically. And
I can believe it.
It almost sounds depressing, like considering it's quite a joyful song with the lyrics. It just didn't suit it. So Bobby and Glenn's version is much more like Robbie's version, and it's just much more joyful and suits the song better.
Well, and they were big
original.
stars here at that time with TV shows and all of that. Again, that's why my music taste is kind of convoluted, because I have music from when I was young in the Beatles, the 60s. I was a girl then. And then during those sort of more formative, when you're really into your music, it was music that I did not relate to. And it was that whole 70s sound and that music, and all of those TV shows were on. And then, I got into 80s, and then after that, it was kind of like I wasn't sure what to do. So I've kind of refound. I feel like I'm a late bloomer with everything. I guess most people don't spend their retirement queuing on the sidewalk, but yeah. So I come late to everything. Yeah, I come late to everything. Like I don't come late. I'm a prompt person, but anyhow. So I'm sorry, I digress.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So should we talk about Minnie the Moocher?
Yeah.
Written by Cab Calloway and Irving Mills, it sold over 1 million copies and was the biggest record of 1931. It was the first jazz record to sell over 1 million. Minnie the Moocher was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999.
The song is about a red-hot hoochie coocher girl called Minnie. The hoochie coochie was a style of belly dancing with non-respectable gypsy origins and was considered lecherous at the time. The lyrics are heavily laden with drug references. Cokey means cocaine. Kick the gong around was slang for smoking opium. A bloke called Smokey takes Minnie to Chinatown, where he introduces her to opium. The rest of the song describes her opium-induced fantasy in which the King of Sweden gives her lots of gifts. During the recording of Soda Pop, Michael randomly started singing the Heidi Heidi Hi bits from Minnie the Moocher, and Rob told him, "I'm doing that. It's going to be the 5th song in the stadiums this year." He hadn't even recorded it at that point, but already decided this, and he was right. It was.
Rob said, "My act consists of pickpocketing so many people that have gone before me, and I was so pleased to have watched a few Cab Calloway videos before my tour this summer. And this song is the perfect epitome of what I want my whole show to be like. The call and response in this is probably the epitome of perfection when it comes to a device to have that connection with the people who've come to see you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy tune as well. She's doing opium with some Chinamen. She's a bit of a fallen woman. She's a bit of a gold digger. I love singing it every night."
Minnie the Moocher I've been a fan of since the Blues Brothers films. With Cab Calloway and his amazingly slinky moves and voice. Don't go to see that. Don't compare him to me. Just listen to my version. His version blows me out of the water, and so do his moves. He's like an Olympian. He's so graceful. Also, I'm an entertainer, and you need my tricks and ways to interact with your audience. That's very important to me. And what better than Minnie the Moocher's Heidi Hi? It's already inbuilt. There's a great communication I get from the audience with that song. And we know he likes that, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
He loves the connection with the audience.
I think it's a perfect song for Robbie, isn't it?
That's a big strength of his, is that connection, that no matter where you are in that arena, stadium, you feel like somehow he can see you or knows that you're there, even though it's the most ludicrous thing. But that's why even that first time I went to see him, I just knew he could see me up there and whatever. But no, he couldn't. Whatever. But
you feel like
I
you
think
can.
You do, and that's something even, and I'll say my husband, who is a big fan, is a fan now of his music, didn't start out that way. He immediately recognized that the first time he went to see him. And, I think he went just because it's like, well, she's doing it, I guess I'll go too. So, but, no, he immediately recognized that in him. And it's very hard to describe to people. Unless they experience it, it's very hard to describe, because I've never seen anybody who does that. I've never been to any shows where they pull that off like that. So, but yeah, I like that song. I did not realize how strong the drug references were. Again, Cab Calloway was, when I was little, on Saturdays, they would show old movies on one of the stations, black and white movies. And I would watch those. And those were the kind of movies I would see, those 1940s movies, those, whatever. And the dancers, and I just was, wow, they just, because they were entertainers. And I guess that's Rob too. But even in that, he's kind of self-deprecating again about, I'm no Cab Calloway or anything. No, but you're unique unto yourself, and you have this own talent for owning that song, and people go crazy when it comes on now. I mean, they just love it, and the lyrics everyone knows, and So I know I certainly will be thinking of it slightly differently when I sing it next time. But
I must admit, I didn't know about all of that either until Lucy was doing the research on it. It was like, that's lovely, sweet song seems a bit different.
Yeah, and that seems to be something that happened a lot in the 40s music, where there were lots of little wink winks in there, with when you really start reading about them, people got a lot of stuff in there that you go, whoa. And actually, that's also something that I think about with Rob. A lot of his music, that's the other reason I think that sometimes it was never maybe as pushed as much over here, because his song doesn't fit that genre of pop here. Pop here was Britney Spears and Justin Bieber and Oh Baby, Baby, Love You. You don't have someone who yells out swear words periodically in their songs, and that's part of the whole love of them, because it's like, that's so clever. So I think that fits with that song, that there's that little wink wink to drugs in there. And so sometimes Rob's songs, when you really go back and listen again, you realize there's another little wink wink to something in there that maybe isn't always so pleasant or whatever, but it's there. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I love it when he sings it live and he changes the lyrics to, I am the okie dokie stokey blokey. A little bit tubby, a little bit cokey. Been around the world, and this is what I found. And then he says something like, Wembley are the loudest crowd, or Estonia women are the prettiest crowd, or whatever he chooses to say that day. It's just brilliant.
Well, I think that's another charm of his, that he obviously never sings to a track somewhere. You always know it's him. And so you like things that he adds to the music, or even if he makes a quote mistake, which I don't look at it that way. I look at it as something very charming, and, he's really entertaining you. He's doing what you came to hear. I could stay home and play music, but I want to see that live performance.
Yeah, exactly.
So
mistakes,
which is kind of why you can go to multiple shows that are the same, which we can talk about that some other time, but it's never really the same. It is, you're sort of in on the jokes and some of the same lines and stuff, but he changes it up.
Yeah.
Whether on purpose or accident, I don't know sometimes. But.
He did say on the Let Me Entertain You tour, because he played this on that tour in 2015, that this had been his favourite song on the Swing Tour set list.
Ah.
So that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
because I was
playing different live clips, I played one from Take the Crown tour, and I played one from the Swing tour.
Yeah.
And on the Take the Crown tour, it was slightly sped up compared to. So they sort of made it a bit sort of rockier to go with the kind of rockier, poppier set.
More upbeat, but higher tempo.
Right.
Yeah, whereas on the Swing tour, it was sort of as it was recorded.
Yeah, that bluesy swing music. Yeah.
And also, I do really like the trumpet plunger mute or Harmon mute sound. I looked it up.
Lucy, the trumpet player.
Yeah.
I looked it up to find out what it was called. That funny thing they put on the end of the trumpet.
That does the wah-wah sound.
That looks like a plunger. Looks like a toilet plunger.
Yeah. I just really like that sound on it.
So a plunger mute or a Harmon mute? I'm impressed with your research,
Well,
Lucy.
I thought I'm not going to sit here and say that thing on the end of the trumpet. I'm going to look up what it's actually called.
Well, it's interesting you say that.
You learn something new.
Yes, yes, very educational, this podcast.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you on that, because I said the trumpet sound on this song is extremely distinctive.
Yeah.
It's when it comes on, it just sort of like sends a shiver down your spine.
Yeah.
And Rob suits the song very well indeed. I mean, and I agree with you, Jocelyn. I think you need to see it live.
Yeah.
I love listening to the song, but you need to see all the movements and all the gestures and the facial expressions and the dancers, and just the whole razzmatazz just really goes with the song. It just fits,
Exactly. Exactly.
And he gets totally into character. He really embodies
Yeah.
it. And then that's again something that you don't just see, you feel, don't you, when you're there? And you're
Exactly.
just like, wow, he just
Exactly.
embodies it. And there's not many people that can do that. So
No.
yeah, I think that all really adds to the song. So I definitely have to
Okay.
see that live.
Yeah, again.
Yeah. Will he do it again?
I
Oh,
don't
of course.
know.
Well, yeah.
I don't think he'll. It'll be. I don't know
Mm.
if he'll ever do that again.
Need another swing tour.
He does pull out things that obviously he's talked about that pleasing the audience at that front few rows. That's easy. He can do anything there, but he has to get to everyone else.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much he switches, he wouldn't switch, I guess, during a show, but I wonder if there's ever any talk of that, like going into a song, if he feels like they're kind of dragging along, like, let's do Minnie the Moocher.
Well, at the Stoke
I don't
gig,
know.
he did kind of end Could It Be Magic a little bit before the end. 'Cause
Yeah,
he said he didn't think it was going down that well. I thought it was, but he did end that a bit abruptly.
Mm.
He just kind of turned around and said, right, stop, enough, stop, to the band.
Yeah.
But I wish he'd carried on.
Yeah, I never know how much of that is real or pretend until you go to another show. And then if he does it again, go, oh, that's part of the shtick.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
So, he's always a surprise.
We forgot to mention the YMCA moment, which we've seen many times.
Oh, yeah.
That happened
They still
at Stoke.
pulled that out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was rolled out. But everyone loved it who didn't know about it.
Well, there was a point where sometimes when you go to multiple shows, if he's telling jokes, he did that, I forget where, but a lot of jokes. And so after a while, you're going, yeah. Even though actually you do still sort of laugh.
You do.
I mean,
Because it's the way
because
he
they're
tells
funny
it.
because he's
Laughter's
telling
infectious.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's never not that again. And I don't know that I'd feel that way about anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one performer right now that we've both agreed here that we're never going to go see again. It's somebody we really enjoy their music, but you could just turn on your iPad and listen to his music. There's no interaction. There's no nothing. And everyone goes crazy. Oh, he's a god. No, not really. He's boring live. So,
I'd love to know who that is. Are you going to say?
Don't make us say.
well,
You could tell
I
us and we
think
could edit it
I
out.
think we're a little bit burned by it because we went to, quote, his last ever concert tour, and we spent a lot of money to go to Albert Hall to see him because he's very popular at Albert Hall. And, I'm glad to say because he's older, he didn't have to stop touring, but he hasn't stopped touring.
He's still doing a farewell tour now, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, even if he wasn't, we'd still be going, no, we're not going again. You can figure it out if you think of the word God. Just figure that one out.
Right, let's move on to If I Only Had a Brain.
Swiftly moving on.
So, If I Only Had a Brain, with lyrics written by Yip Harburg, music by Harold Arlen, it appeared in the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, sung by the Scarecrow. It was originally written as I'm Hanging On to You for a Broadway musical, Hooray for What? But it was dropped from that musical. When they were asked to write a song for The Wizard of Oz, they just wrote new lyrics.
Rob said, I knew the Wizard of Oz version first, of course. They're magic songs. You didn't have the ability to YouTube songs back then, so you'd see a song once when you were 9 and it would stick. You probably wouldn't get to hear it again until you were 14 or 15 when it was on the television again. So they went in once and they stayed in there.
Later, one of my favourite albums was an album called 20 by Harriet Connick Jr., and in it he does a version of If I Only Had a Brain, much similar to this version here. It becomes a different song altogether. For me, I just equate it to not getting any GCSEs and finding things complicated. It's in the guise of a very famous song from a very camp film, but it has pathos for me. I've felt a bit stupid all my life. I left school without any GCSEs, was quickly involved in the University of Life. I think I got called stupid an awful lot at school, or felt it. Either which way, the song, If I Only Had a Brain, really appeals to me. It's how I feel at my most vulnerable.
Ah.
I reckon I
Yep.
know what we're going to say now.
Do you?
Yeah, well,
yeah, what
that's
Jocelyn's already
why
said
I hate,
earlier, that he's not stupid. And
no,
he shouldn't
and
think of
it
himself
breaks
like that.
my heart that he thinks that, and that's how his school experience. It breaks my heart as a teacher, of course, to
Yeah.
think that that's how children go through school, and especially him went through school that way, thinking that. And so when he does sing that song, that was exactly what I always thought about was, oh, bless his heart, he probably thinks that. And so to have it kind of validated, it's even sadder in a way, but
Yeah.
you can see why, that song comes out. So
Yeah.
it's not just a show tune, because that's not one of my favorite movies, because it had a tornado in it. Where I lived, we always had bad tornadoes,
Oh.
terrible tornado stories. But that song just to me has always meant kind of that, and then to have him sing it, it really does mean that it's a piece of him that just breaks my heart that he had that feeling. And I think he does continue to have the feeling. He'll even talk about Ida sometimes and,
Yeah.
oh, how smart she is and all of this. Well, you don't write the lyrics you write, and you don't
Yeah.
do the things you do if you're not intelligent. And
Exactly.
that's a special intelligence that he has.
Yeah.
And if you want to call it that or some other name for it, artistic temperament, I don't know. But I just so that song does have pathos because when it's related to him. When it's in the movie, it has a tinge of that, and I'm sure that was the original intent of it with this poor scarecrow, because you've got the scarecrow and then one with no heart and all of that. I'm sure there were lots of undercut meanings with all of those songs, and that was one. But when it's related to Rob, it's really hard to hear sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, it's a shame, isn't it? Because Rob's only just a little bit older than us, isn't he? So
Yeah.
the school era that he went to school in was similar to ours. And I do remember that unless you had extreme special needs in those days, nothing else was recognised. And so people were called stupid,
Yeah.
and they were sat in the corner, and they were excluded if they didn't quite get it. We had relatively good schooling. It wasn't bad, but I just remember, I really relate to a few of the things, or I understand a few of the things that Rob says about how he was treated. And unfortunately, it was like that back then.
Yeah.
So, but I am completely in agreement with both of you. Smart is, probably an understatement for his creative brain. I mean, it's just incredible. His emotional intelligence is off the scale as well, because to connect with people in the way that he does, and to make people feel the way that they do, is a very, very special thing indeed. But I agree with you. I think we often hear him referring to it, and so I think it still bugs him a little bit. But it's a strange song, isn't it? Because obviously I can't not think of Wizard of Oz when it comes on, because it is a Wizard of Oz show tune.
Right. Exactly.
And I noticed one of the things I picked up on, because I didn't have much more to say, but I noticed that he repeats the first verse at the end. I mean, maybe it was just the lyrics I was looking at. Maybe they do that in the film. I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to make it a little bit longer.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the film, it's not that long, this song. So I think that's all they did, just to make it into a song length.
Yeah. And I must, as I've said, I must admit, it's quite an intellectual song for someone who doesn't have a brain.
Yeah. I kind of would like to imagine that song is like his Sir poem, that it's sort of like, so there you go. It's sort of like, in spite of all this, look what I've done.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes if he is drawn to that sort of thing, like this, it's made him more defiant. Like, well, you said this about me, but look what I've done here. And so, it is pretty amazing when you think if someone has been really told over and over they don't have skills or they don't have something, to really defy that. I think that's an incredible talent myself, or an incredible, not talent, but I think that's something to be said too. And I think it shows that he had the support probably of people around him. His mother believed in him and whatever. So I presume. But yeah, so that he went out there and put himself out there, recognizing he had other skills and other talents that maybe they didn't recognize, but he certainly had them, and he had to kind of prove himself. And I think he still does that. He proves himself all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like they kind of like, they like me, they really liked me. He always seems incredulous with that. And I don't think that's an act. I think that, in my opinion, I think he's sincere with that. I think he's always kind of surprised by that.
Yeah.
So
What do you think,
that's
Lucy?
what I take from that song.
Well, it's like a lovely sort of classical kind of piece. I do like how they've transformed it into a ballad compared to the version in the film. I'd find it kind of a little bit boring, sandwiched between Minnie the Moocher and Fat Pop Star. You know, it's kind of, you know,
Quite a mixture of songs.
Yeah. I do love how he says individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
take a syllable out or two, just to make it fit.
Make it fit.
Yeah. Well, and I think in the original, the character did a lot of that. I mean, you know, it was the whole Midwestern kind of America, you know, trying to do some sort of a little take on those words too. So I don't know. I don't know if that's even true. That's just my guess. And I will say, I hope Robbie never tries to do an American accent again. Every time he does it, it's just like the only thing he can't do. Everything else sounds fine. Not that one. That in the book, the audio version of his book, The Man Who Does Ida, that still is the best thing. If you've not listened to the audio version of Rob's book, the man doing Ida, oh Lord have mercy. So anyhow.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So let's talk about No One Likes a Fat Pop Star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So written by Rob, Guy and Chris Heath on only the second day of their reunion, Chris detailed its writing in Reveal. Rob suggested to Guy, we should write a song called Thin, a swing song about losing weight. Let's write about what we know and I know about trying to be thin and not succeeding. The idea of a list song led Guy to My Favourite Things. So he played about with that on the piano until he found a kind of fairground waltz. Rob started singing lyrics immediately, including the chorus, "No one likes a fat pop star," straight away.
Rob explained the meaning of the line, "the saddest that I've ever been," saying, "Because it is. When I'm the thinnest, I'm the saddest. The thinnest I've ever been was round about the time we recorded Swing When You're Winning, and we also wrote Feel. And that was probably one of the most depressed moments of my life." After a final vocal session, Rob and Guy were listening to this, and Guy said, "It's a bit Noel, isn't it?" Robbie replied, "Edmonds." But of course, Guy had meant Noel Coward.
Oh no!
See, I would automatically think Edmonds as well. Noel Edmonds.
Yeah.
Guy told the Daily Telegraph, "Fat pop star started as a joke. I came up with the chorus melody, which is very operatic, and Rob can really sing that kind of music. When we performed it for the first time, the whole crowd spontaneously stood up and started clapping. It was great seeing the shock of the public following that lyric and to hear him singing like Pavarotti."
Rob explained, "A song that is ridiculous and that is true. There's much said and written about famous people and their weight, with all the not so great pictures of people on holiday and in the street, and there's a cruelty that goes along with it. I myself, from time to time, seem to be amongst those pictures and with those people. So this song is an attempt to show the other side of something that can be very painful. You know, tragedy plus time equals comedy. If I'd have really realised that there were 80 people in the orchestra playing on that song, I probably would have hung Guy Chambers for an absolute waste of money. There's many sides to Guy Chambers, and one side is huge flamboyant daftness. As it happens, it's a stroke of genius, and I'm so pleased and glad that he did it."
He told Q magazine, It was just a throwaway song. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, this'll never get used, but I'm having fun with this. It's my favourite song on the album. In the track-by-track video, Rob revealed, it's funny. It's basically me poking fun at the media's obsession with weight and my own obsession. In fact, obsession with weight full stop. Getting older and looking forward to this, if I want to be a pop star and if I want to get on stage and go, I think I'm a bit of great. So I'm obsessed with weight. It's a big, over-the-top production to a stupid subject, and it's got a big chorus with a big choir. I pat myself on the back for this song. It's funny and of its time and big and daft and whimsical, and I love the tune.
It is one of the best songs on the album, I think. It's just so funny and clever.
Yeah.
And Guy was definitely right to bring in the orchestra and the choir. It just sounds incredible, doesn't it?
It's funny that I think they talk about that Guy wrote his, is it the anthem that,
Oh, the national
Rob
anthem
does
of
now.
Robbie.
Yes, that he quickly whipped that out too. And so he must really, it's obvious that he knows kind of Rob's inside better than maybe sometimes we even give him credit for, because if he could come up with this and realize that's a point of contention and then all of those other things. So he does seem to know about Rob's little soft spots there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting. No, I love that song because well, again, it's one of those songs that it's very laughable on the surface, but it's very true. And then it's also a little bit sad too.
Yeah.
So, and I do have a connection with that song.
Yes.
Well, we'd love to hear about that, Jocelyn.
Well,
Tell us that story.
I got to see that song before it was ever put out. Because I was in his show at the Palladium. I don't think that Rob knows this, so I'm telling a secret that I sort of didn't want him to know because...
Really? I didn't know that he didn't know.
Well, I don't know if he does, but I don't want to come across as some crazy stalker lady,
I don't think you do.
You won't.
Well, I don't know if he's ever made that connection or not, so I just feared it was better to not make that connection. Now, when he was doing the Palladium show is when I had first started to learn about Robbie stuff, and I was on my way, again, I had to do everything on school holidays because I was still teaching at the time. And so there was the big Palladium show, and I got a ticket, and at that time I would do things like during my lunch break, I would manage to get a ticket and everyone would know what I was doing, like, oh, you just get to see that guy again, don't you? And be like, yeah, can you take the kids to the classroom because I have to finish my transaction. Okay. So I had a ticket to go to the show and was so excited. And I convinced my other Anglophile friend, Margaret, to go over with me. And I said, it's okay. We'll do all these things like we normally do because we'd been going for years. I said, and then I'll just go to the show because luckily we had a seat. I say luckily because that didn't know about that queuing stuff again. And, or I guess maybe I did know about it, but I knew I didn't have to queue. So I had all my clothes, all my dress up clothes and everything to wear and go and be posh and everything. And she was going to entertain herself for the evening. So I got a message from one of the girls that's on that, was on that old app.
Yeah.
Actually, anyhow, so I'm not saying names just because I don't like to divulge what I don't know if it's public knowledge for people. Anyhow, the message was that they were looking for extras for Fat Pop Star. And they wanted people, and I still don't remember the exact wording, but basically it meant old and kind of haggard looking. And,
No, I'm sure
was
it didn't
like-
say that.
No, seriously, it was something because it talked about being like a Les Mis kind of thing with
Oh,
people
yeah.
that were kind of scruffy and everything.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Sounds interesting. And so for the first time in my life ever, I took a selfie. I remember going into my bathroom in front of the shower curtain, and I emailed this into people. And again, I was back at school eating lunch at my desk this time. We had an in-service day, and I got a message that said, oh, we'd like to use you. And it was like, okay. And again, there was no big woo-hoo-hoo-hoo about this. It was kind of very casual. And so I remember trying to think, how do I call the UK from my cell phone? Because it was that far back in whatever. So I managed to call this person and I told her my situation and I said, I'm coming over to the show. And so can I just do this and then go back out and sit in my seat? And she said, no, not really. And she said, you'll just have to stay and do it. And she said, if you're a big fan, and then I realized this wasn't something fans were doing probably, but again, it didn't connect. She said, you probably just want to go to the show. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'll just give it up and don't worry about it. So didn't think any more about it until I got to England and my friend and I were in the hotel room and I got up the next morning and before she was awake and I looked online and it was talking about the extras for that. There were 5 men and 5 women. The person who arranged all that said, oh, some of our people. They said, but we only have 4 women right now. And I went, wait a minute. This isn't going to be like a whole bunch of people. This is just like a few people. So I quickly did a lot of messages back and forth. Long story short, got back in and they took me back in and said, okay, can you be down at the Palladium every day for so many days? You have to come in the mornings and blah, 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 blah. So,
oh, wow.
So it was still early morning. And so I remember lying in the bed, trying to be really quiet till my friend Margaret woke up. And I said, and so as soon as she woke up, guess what? And she just kind of rolled her eyes. She said, fine, that's okay. I'll just walk down there every day with you. So that's what I did. So every day I would go down for this week before and go in and I had my special badge and I hadn't had clothes. Luckily I had brought, this is very detailed, leggings and tank tops. Okay. I had enough of those to have a clean pair every day because we were the lowest of the low when it comes to the cast. We had been an afterthought when they decided to produce that song and put it up there. So we were the afterthought. So they had no costumes for us. They had nothing. They finally pulled out this rack and said, these are some children's costumes. If you want to pick through and try to get something. And there were some old dirty boots. And I don't know if you know much about me, but I'm very anal about cleanliness. So I had to wear this little girl's dress that opened in the back that was skin tight over my tank top and leggings and these dirtyish boots. And I found a shawl and a bonnet and put that on. And so we all tried to do our best. The other people I was with, they are lovely people. They're actually, I guess you call them bit actors, but part-time actors or full-time actors, some of them too. Some I still have kept in touch with. And this was a real important show for them because it's the Palladium. And to say you're an actor and you've played the Palladium is a big deal. I kept what I did for a living very quiet because I realized I had gotten in a bit over my head. And they even said, well, have you done anything lately? And I said, well, I work with a lot of children. And I didn't lie. I just didn't talk a lot for once in my life. And so, yes, I was on the stage during that show. My biggest concern was not falling down the stairs. But we were given the lyrics and we had to learn the lyrics so that when we were singing and the order was we were to have disdain for him. We were to be people, and there's all this food, and that's where the Les Mis part came, that we had disdain for Robbie Williams, and it was just disgusting, getting fat and everything. So, okay. And so I spent several days in rehearsals, and I stood at the side before we had to go in because we came in from the side of the theater through the audience. Yeah. And that was when Teddy was first born. And so we would peek and watch him. And so I would see him there with his nice white shirt on and the makeup thing around it. And he'd have little Teddy with him and being daddy. And it was just so sweet. And I will tell an anecdote about that regarding him. Because we were the lowest of the low, they put us in the dressing room with the female dancers. And they were lovely girls, these little tiny girls in their little costumes, but we kind of all sat in the corner. We didn't have makeup people. We had to do our own stuff. I mean, it really was funny. We didn't get paid. We did get a bag of boxed sandwiches and some drinks one day. And it was, that theater is so glorious, but behind the scenes, it's an old theater. So these little narrow cubicles that you go down and, and now in retrospect, we would see all the people go by because we were right next to the costume room. And so you'd see all the people. I'd go, he's in the band. But I never said that because I had a job to do. In fact, one of the people who I don't keep in touch with made a comment to me because she learned that I was a fan. And she said, oh, so what are you going to do? Scream and yell when he comes out?
Oh,
and I
God.
said, no, I'm going to do my job because I felt I felt that I was, honored to be there, but I had to do my job. And my job at that time was just to support that and to be part of the whole, whatever. And so I listened to these actors and actresses, and I remember the lyrics. There was a lot of discussion about how are we going to pronounce this word. And I'm thinking, I'm just lip syncing. What difference does it make? But they were very precise about it. And I even learned from one of the little girls who was actually in the show from one of those choirs. How they had children in the show? Because there were several sets of children. There were the big kids and the little ones and everything, and they were fabulous. They were little theater children. And these two girls were having a discussion about their one teacher, that she was their dictation teacher. And oh my gosh, I can't believe she makes us say the words this way when I said this. And it was wonderful to listen to them. That's the discussion we were having over the lyrics of Fat Pop Star. We were discussing how we were going to say, I don't know what word it was, whether it would be fat or oh my gosh. So yeah, that was my experience. So he obviously flew up in the air there. And no, I did not. Well, actually, I did meet him during that show. We were told we were not to ever approach the star, and that's how he was referred to, the star. And one day before the show, I wasn't on duty. He was coming, and I was with some people that we know. I was with Haley and Karen, actually, because it was Karen's birthday.
Yeah.
And so we stood outside the theater, and he came up, and I remember Carrie was upset because he said he's running late, and you know how he is about time. That's another thing I like about him. He's very prompt.
Yeah.
And he was very gracious, and he came out and spoke to us and signed some things, and it's not in the pictures with Karen. He signed my phone case, and he kept saying, so you're in my show. How did you get in my show? And I said, I guess just because I'm old. I don't know. And he said, but you're an American. How did you get in my show? And in retrospect, I realized he was really genuinely wondering.
Just
I hopefully wasn't thinking like, crazy lady. What the heck?
No, I think he's interested.
But I was so scared that I was going to get in trouble because we had been given that job of, don't approach the star. And I thought, oh my gosh. So that was my only contact with him. Then when we did the dress rehearsals, they told me I could go sit out in the audience. And so I waited for a while, and I was trying to find my way around the back of the stage to get into the audience. And I was wandering, and again, I'm clueless. I don't pay attention to things. In retrospect, now I know what was going on. I couldn't find my way. So this man came up, put his arm around me. And I now think he was thinking, what the heck are you doing back here? But he was very kind and said, can I help you? And I told him my dilemma, and he took me out. Well, it was Guy. He was trying, So I realize now why he did that, because actually I was at the part of the theater where it said, Robbie Williams' dressing room. So they probably thought I was hanging around the dressing room or something. But I'll wind this up because it's too long. The story about Rob was we were all sitting in our little dressing room, waiting for our time to go on and everything. And it was a cool theater experience. I'm not a theater person, but anyhow, so this person came roaring in to the other girls who had those makeup boxes and everything and said, do you have anything to take self-tanner off? And they went, so they were discussing. She said, he used self-tanner last night, and now it doesn't match the other shots we have of him. So we've got to get that self-tanner off. And they were and I remember sitting there, and I literally was all scrunched up as small as with my little bonnet on and my glasses, thinking, I'll take it off for you if you want. But I never said that. But it did pass through my brain at the time. So I was just kind of starting I know who Robbie Williams is. So that's my connection to that song. And yes, I was thrilled to death because I was, being an Anglophile, being part of the TV and all of that. It was just, but to tell it now, it would have a much different meaning if I did it now than when I did it. I was just afraid of falling down the stairs because I don't see very well. And so everyone was so kind. I just have to say, everyone was so kind and lovely and whatever. But we were kind of relegated into one area, and then he kind of did his thing. And even during the dress rehearsal, that was the only time I think, and I'm not even sure of this, that he was hoisted up there, and just for a brief period. He wore this giant fat suit that would not fit down the hallway to the costume area. And so you would see them kind of struggling down this hallway that was so narrow and tiny. And so you'd see this fat suit go by,
Oh, wow.
and so, but never him. He wasn't up there. They went to him, but everyone else came up there and took care of that. So, but yes, I remember lots of discussion about those words and learning all of those words and what they meant, and how we were going to say them on the stage. So,
Well, you did do a very good job. 'Cause
Yes, you did.
you
We
were-
watched it recently.
Yeah,
didn't
you
we?
were centre stage behind Robbie, weren't you, in some of the shots?
well, they didn't tell us where we had to stand, and I thought, I came all the way over here to do this. I'm getting up front. And that was the discussion we
Front
all
and
kind of had.
center.
To be honest, all of the extras said, we're moving up front, because the ones behind were the official people. They were the singers and everything.
Right.
And we were just we literally were kind of like the way we looked. We were kind of the ragtag group, the men and the women. It was kind of like, yeah, get up there and do your thing. And so we were sort of left to our own devices. And when that happens, you go, I'm going up front.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
it.
Jocelyn, you nailed it, because I'm not just saying that. When we watched it the other day,
Yeah.
it was totally authentic. The performance was
Yeah.
completely authentic,
It was great.
as if you'd been rehearsing it for weeks on end. It was
We had
perfect.
rehearsed. We did rehearse, I will say
Yes.
that, but there really wasn't much guidance for us. We didn't have to do
Yeah, it was great.
as much as I thought. Now, maybe the real actors, if they hear this, are going to go, Jay, what is wrong with you? We really worked hard on this. I don't know. So I apologize that I didn't understand. So
I think
yes, that
it
my
was
story.
Great piece of a great creative piece, actually, because when
Yeah.
I watched it back, I thought, yeah, because obviously we've seen him do it before in the fat suit, but
Right.
but the staging of it and that creative part of it, it made it actually. It was good
Yeah.
and funny.
Yeah, well, at the time, I didn't exactly understand all the connection at the time, but
Yeah.
it's fun to watch. It's great to watch. So, but the song makes me a bit sad that, again, he's so self-deprecating, and that was one of the things I learned when I first started learning about him. How they always call him, is this true, the fat person from Take That? I
The
mean,
fat dancer.
and I look at those pictures and go,
He's not
really?
fat.
Where?
I know. Exactly.
I never understood any of that.
I
so
still don't.
there was a lot of confusing. Yeah, I don't get it. And we know now he's as trim can be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never seen a fat, but I just read something that he talked about his body now. And again, it was self-deprecating. And it's just like, oh my, that's the mom in me that just wants to shake him and say, stop it. Stop it.
Mm.
So, but yeah, the song is very clever.
Yeah.
All of yeah, even though it does have kind of a naughty line in it.
Do you think?
I had to be educated on that.
Yeah, I love it. It's got such amazing lyrics, hasn't it? It's a stroke of genius. If I could eat my own verbs, I'd tear through the. If I could eat my own word.
I wanted to say that.
Oh,
but...
go on, you say it then.
Oh no, it's all right. I'm joking.
If I could eat my own words, I'd tear through the verbs, but nobody pays me to speak.
You realise you were actually just eating
Yeah.
your own words there.
Yeah, I was.
It's very clever, that line.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
one of my favourite Robbie lyrics. I think now
Yeah.
I've gone back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't. You
I
just
like
can't be
all the
portly.
lyrics in there.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You just can't
I
be
think they're
portly,
so
not this
clever.
side of 40.
That's mine as well.
Oh, go on, you say it then.
Taking all my
You
my
say it.
lines.
I haven't looked at what you've written.
I'm only joking.
You'll have
Okay.
to take the one about the pies.
I too love the use of the word portly
Yeah.
because, you know,
Yeah.
you can't just be portly this side of 40. Now, just to say this for any non-native English speakers out there, we don't use the word portly really.
No.
So, so it's a definition of having a stout body, somewhat fat, used especially of a man. That's the definition. So there you go.
Yeah, it's not something you ever really
Portly.
say.
I just thought it was brilliant.
A single
It is,
chin.
yeah,
game.
it is, again, an older theatrical word because you immediately have an image of portly.
Yes.
You know, from some old movie with the suit on and the pants hiked up and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not him.
Shall I carry on?
Yeah, well, yeah, you've said all my lines now, so that's all right. No, it's all right.
A single chin game, scum paparazzis, and weight police nasties have narrowed the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
I just love it. It's amazing. And the
So
instrumentation
clever. Very
and the
clever.
choir are incredible
Yeah.
as well, aren't they?
Right. The way it switches back and forth, it reminds me where there's muck. Some people have always said that sounds like a 2-part song, and this one can be that way. But again, it's very theatrical, perfect for some big production, which that was a big production. But yeah, I just love all the clever wordings in there, and I do wonder if portly was used just as a rhyming word. What was it? There's some
40.
song he talked
40.
about. Yeah, he used a word just because it rhymed, I think it was
Yes.
magenta or something, that it's like, no, there's no real meaning. It just rhymed.
Yeah.
But portly does have a meaning in this. But
Yes.
yeah, I think that's clever that he knows so many words. You
Yeah.
have to be quite intelligent to have those words at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So
I remember a
But it's a
misheard
clever
lyric
song.
actually.
Oh.
When I first heard the song, and don't ask me why, but when the choir ensemble are singing "No One Likes a Fat Pop Star," because they go pop star, it's so like loud and
Yeah.
shrill. I thought they were
Yes.
singing "No One Likes a Fat Bastard," and I'm sure I was singing that when. Sorry, but I'm sure I was singing that to begin with, and then realised, oh no, the song's called Fat Pop Star. It's not that. So anyway, it's quite embarrassing. But
Well, I would have never known all those words if I hadn't seen them originally. So that's my big claim, is that I saw those words originally. So that's why they were burned into my brain.
I also loved it when he sang it on tour, and he'd go up with his head in between the
Yes.
curtains.
oh
You could
yeah,
just see his head.
that was
going
really
up.
theatrical. Absolutely brilliant.
And they'd go up and down a bit, wouldn't he? And then the curtains would slowly
Yeah.
open,
Yeah.
and then he'd be in his fat suit.
He wonders why he has back. Well, maybe
I
he doesn't
know.
wonder why he has back problems, but so many things he's done.
Yes. Yeah.
Comes out with smoke, shoo.
Yes.
Comes out upside down, shoo. Does that? I mean, good grief.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
yeah,
And then how he would always talk about how his balls were going up into his
exactly.
body, and he does it all in the name of entertainment.
That's right. That was one of those jokes that you had to get used to if you saw the show multiple
Yeah.
times. Like, oh yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I love that song. It's a great song for the car too.
Yes.
You can just belt it out in
Yeah.
the car, and
Yeah, definitely.
especially here, nobody knows what you're singing. So, but no, I think that the words are just beyond clever.
Yeah.
And again, I hate that he thinks that about himself, but for a guy to have kind of keyed in and said, this is something you must worry about all the time. And we know he does, because
Yeah.
he's always talking about
Ah.
that. So,
Yeah.
which I understand. I mean, that's part of his business.
Yeah.
And that must be horrible to have to endure.
I remember I've
lives
already
in
said this
LA.
once. I've already said it once on the podcast, this story, but I do remember once we were in the chat room, and I was having breakfast, and Rob was up in the middle of the night loading FIFA onto his PlayStation or something, and he looked at my profile pic and said, "Matt, you've got a really thin face," and I was like, "No one's ever said that to me before. What are you talking about? My face is my face. I might have been a bit chubby when I was younger, but I've always kind of had this face." And he was like, How do you keep thin? And then we had the whole discussion about what I eat and the fact that I go running quite a lot. And he was like, oh, I don't like running. And we got into that whole discussion.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes. So I tried to sort of say it all quite constructively so that it didn't make matters worse. For him. Bless him. But we had a good chat about it.
Oh gosh.
So should we move on to Where There's Muck?
Yeah, Where There's Muck. Written by Rob and Guy. They rewrote this old song of theirs in January 2013, which Rob used to not like, but changed his mind. He said, "It was written with Guy. I was very lonely and very depressed at the time, but also running alongside that was a sense of humour. Where there's muck, there's brass, kiss my arse."
Yes.
Or brass and ass.
Can I go first in this one?
Yeah, go on.
Kiss my arse. My arse. I love that bit. As lyrics go, that extended arse is just brilliant. And I love the musical switch in the song as well. You go from this jaunty, bobbing along piece to this really amazing orchestral style. It really just works well. The comparison of those two, and then I looked up. So again, for those people that might not know this saying, where there's muck, there's brass is actually a British English saying used to say that somebody has made a lot of money from an unpleasant or a dirty business activity.
Oh.
Dear. When they saw his enormous house and flash car, they looked at each other, both thinking, where there's muck, there's brass. Muck is dirt or mud. And brass is an old-fashioned word for money.
Okay.
There you go. That's my little factoid.
Okay.
I love that song.
I always feel
I
like, I don't know why, but in my head, I felt like it was a cover. I don't know why, because clearly it's not with those lyrics.
No.
But something about...
I had a similar feeling, though. I know what you mean.
Something about the music just makes me feel like it's a genuine old song,
Right. Right.
It just sounds amazing. And all the lyrics.
Yeah, it's another one of those songs that sounds very theatrical. You can see it in a show somewhere, someone going from that and then So, but I love that refrain. It's, again, in the car, it's a great car song.
It's a good one to sing along to, yeah.
It is.
Just kind of singing along, and when someone cuts you off,
yeah, I think it's just all the references to the kind of old ship and boat and like an old. I felt like it looks like an old sailor's song or something.
Yeah,
it's obviously written to be like
an
that,
old shanty song.
Yeah. But actually, it's very sad, isn't it? The song, it's essentially about him being kind of lost at sea. Before the boats are wrecked, send a dove to land on deck, because the noose around my neck is killing me. The anger makes me boil, the mistakes I make are royal. There's a sadness in the silent part of me. And also when he says, my breath's 100 proof, I'm guessing that maybe this was written back when he was still drinking even.
Probably.
You know,
if it was redone then,
So it's actually a very sad song, but it's actually really uplifting because you just want to go kiss my ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, one of those songs where here's the sadness, all of this, but I've overcome it. So I'm hoping that that's kind of part of it. That, in spite of all this, I'm still here and I did this.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing about him. He's always owned, in my opinion, his mistakes. And they've always been mistakes that really just hurt himself. They weren't, egregious things that hurt other people seemingly. I'm sure they did from the fallout. Obviously, if you're involved with drugs and alcohol or any kind of substance abuse, it does hurt other people. But the person he was hurting the most was always himself.
Yeah.
And it's just, so it's just really sad that, and quite laudable that he's gone through all of this and, has come out seemingly on the other side here. So, so that to me is one of those songs that goes along with that.
Yeah.
Are we ready to go on to 16 Tons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So written by Merle Travis, it's based on the life of the mines of Muhlenberg County, Kentucky. First recorded in 1946, some of the lines came from letters written by Merle's brother and dad. The best-known version was recorded by Tennessee Ernie Ford in 1955, which hit number 1 in the Billboard charts. It's also been covered by B.B. King, Bobby Darin and Johnny Cash.
Rob explained, another song from my youth that is one of my favourite songs ever. I liked the idea of being this manly man. I was born one morning when the sun didn't shine. I picked up my shovel and I walked to the mine. My granddad worked down the mine, and we were from a community of miners, so I suppose I had a link there. My favourite lyric of all time, when I was 8 or 9, was, "One fist of iron, the other of steel. If the right one don't get you, then the left one will." That used to make me feel incredibly hard.
He told Radio 2, Tenny has a timbre to his voice that I couldn't quite match. I did an okay version, and that's why it's on the deluxe version and not on the main, because I don't personally think I did it 100% justice. For that reason, he says he won't ever sing it live.
Oh, I think he does a great version of it.
Yeah.
He does.
Putting himself down again.
Can't say that I've listened to the original all that much.
I did.
But
I had to listen to it, and he does sound
yeah.
great, but it's just a deeper voice, isn't it? That's all it is.
Yeah, the original version is the one I grew up with, and that was a very popular song. And
Right.
my dad was a factory worker, and so I think that was another. It's exactly what he said. These men, and typically was men, all related to that hard-working guy and who was doing it for the family and everything. But yeah, Tennessee Ernie Ford, he actually I think had his own TV show over here, but he has a very deep voice, and so he was always kind of this sort of corny guy, but his songs sounded very powerful. So it's kind of like a Tom Jones voice,
Right.
Tennessee Ernie Ford, where they just belt it out. And I guess there's a connection there with the Welsh miners and everything. But anyhow, so it was that kind of voice. And so it was very distinctive. But I guess I never have thought that Rob didn't do it justice in any way. He doesn't have that deep voice. There aren't very many that do. That's like saying if he sang one of Tom Jones' songs, he would not sound the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be very different because it's a very different kind of voice. So it's not about his skill. It's just his voice doesn't sound the same.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the version that we heard over and over. And Tennessee Ernie Ford was a big deal over here. So again, another sort of country kind of thing, but very popular with that working kind of class person.
I like how he says, "Well, a bless her my soul." I don't know. It's just my favourite bit, the way he says that bit. And how he sings the last line, "I owe my soul to the company store." I just really like how he does this, like flawless, that bit, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually wondered why he chose to sing this song. Obviously, there's a lot of, like you say, Jocelyn, there's a lot of connections in his life. And obviously it fits really well on the Swing album, but I wonder if there's a deeper meaning to it. You know, I mean, the original was about that coal miner from Kentucky, so I wonder if Robbie's making a comparison. This is going to get deep now. You ready for it?
Okay.
Whether he's making a comparison to his early days being in Take That and being under the tight control of his management and the record company.
Yeah.
Probably not,
That's
nothing
possible.
at all like that, but it could be.
Who knows?
I mean, you know, it's not quite the same as going down the mine.
No.
but, you know.
It is part of him, though, that identifies and I think is charming too, or I don't know if charming's the word, but he's still at the heart of it, that person from Stoke, and a lot of those values that are inbred in him. I think that's in that song too. And I think that's what really appealed to people with that song. It's that real hardworking guy that really, you know, what do they call that? Soul of the earth or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, and he probably, and maybe he just likes the sound too, but I think that's what most people here would say they took from that. It's just, you know, that hardworking guy who's now singing and so on. So, you know, and maybe that's his connection because he seems to connect with a lot of these songs that surprise me. Like he likes Glenn Campbell and talks about, you know, some of those songs, and they're very similar kinds of songs. These, you know, hardworking fellows, and, you know, they have this other side to them. And
Yes.
so.
And I have a feeling that possibly Pete, his dad, might have been playing this back in the day.
Yeah,
quite a lot.
definitely.
Probably, yeah. That would
Maybe
have
even
been,
singing it
that would
himself. have
been very likely. Yeah. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure I know we had a Tennessee Ernie Ford record at our house. I remember that, and my parents played it. So, and it was that kind of Tom Jones kind of thing with the voice that's so deep and identifiable.
Yeah.
Because Tennessee Ernie Ford himself, in his later years, he sort of played kind of a comedic, they called them hillbillies, kind of this hillbilly character he would play, y'all. And I know he was even in I Love Lucy. He would play this reoccurring character. And Lucy's were like 50s or something. And then he was on some other shows we had here. We had a show, I think it was called Hee Haw or something like that. And he would play this, always had the overalls on and the kind of whatever. So it was a character, but that was very different than his music, because his music was very powerful and like the song.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was his persona as he got older. Yeah. So just a little bit of added to that.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
Okay, so let's go on to Wedding Bells.
Yeah. Written by Rob and Gary Barlow, this is the only song on the album not produced by Guy. It was instead produced by Rob's early producer, Steve Power, who was working on Gary's Since I Saw You Last album.
Rob said, "Me and Gary Barlow have written a load of songs together, and this is one of them that I'm very fond of. We wrote it in my attic in Beverly Hills, between the Take That tour and Take the Crown. I provided the words to a song that he already had, about a man who is besotted by a woman that's no good for him. She's not to be trusted, but he's in such denial that I don't think it will ever become apparent to him until she leaves. I think he'll probably be stranded at the altar. To me, it sounds like a standard."
This song was supposed to appear on Gary and Rob's duo album After Progress. Rob said, "We made a great record together, but it sounded like older guys. I just think I was aware of the impending process of my age, just getting older as a pop star and worried about it, and I wanted it to be totally right. Tim and Flynn were young and vibrant, and I just thought, hang on a minute, perhaps I'm missing a trick. Some of the cancelled album songs were later used by Gary, while Different and Candy were included on Take the Crown." There you go. So they were going to have an album of duets.
Interesting.
Yeah, called Requiem. So,
see, and this is another one of those songs I think sounds very theatrical, that you could imagine a show with this song in it, someone kind of looking out in the distance.
it definitely sounds like a standard.
To be blunt, the music he writes with Gary is not usually my favorite. I know that sounds terrible to say, but there's a different sound that doesn't, and maybe it's the lyrics. It's not so much the sound. The lyrics don't always resonate as much with me as when he does his own or when he's with Guy. There's a different cadence to the sounds. And that was the only thing that kind of bugs me, if you will, about this song. To me, the sound is very different than any of his other songs. I don't dislike it, but to me, it sounds, even Candy is that way. The lyrics are kind of, and then, So.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell it's written by
If that
Gary.
makes any sense.
Yeah, it
I don't
does.
know.
It does.
It does
There's always a
sound-
different style with Gary.
Yeah, it does sound different to the rest of the album.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm kind of interested to know how they decided who got which song and whether this was
Exactly.
originally sung by Gary at some point, or whether it was ever a duet, or weird, isn't it? But it definitely sounds like a standard. It's got a very old feel to it.
It does. It does very much so.
It's got
I
a
agree.
good key change in it as well, which is very Gary-esque.
Yep. See, you guys know all of those phrases. I am just like, it changes and sounds different.
Well, we don't know all of them.
I'm like,
We try and make it sound as
I'm
though we
like
know a few.
the person who goes to the art show and says, I know what I like. This is beautiful artwork. I don't know who it is, what it is, or what it's even made of, but I like it. So that's where I am.
Matt, what do you think?
Well, it's a really lovely song.
Yeah.
It's got a great flute opening like that. Birds singing as well. It just reminds me of like a mild spring morning in the sunshine. Nice song. Not one I would choose to listen to all that often, I would say. I don't dislike it, but yeah.
I like the lines.
Well, and there's that layer of sadness with it too. So
yeah,
it's not a real chipper song.
No.
I like the line, my friends all think I'm mad and she makes my dad sad and he married my mother. So I just think that's funny.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I'm just imagining open doors, overtures for son-in-laws. I mean,
exactly.
That's a Robbie lyric, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just
very
rhyming words that you'd never think of putting together.
Exactly.
But I do really like it.
So no, I don't dislike the song, but I think it's a pretty song. I do think it's a pretty song.
Yeah.
But I like his songs when his voice is a little deeper and just into some other sounds, which is why I like that one song we're going to talk about, even though it's a bit whoa for me. I like his voice in it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Do we move on then to You Got Old?
With Johnny Wilkes.
Yeah, this was a B-side.
Did you pick this just for me? You got old. Is there?
No.
As Rob said one time, the first time he really kind of interacted with me, I think I had gone to Barcelona and he went on chat. And first he said that nice American lady was here. And then he said, are you my older American fan? And I know he was kind of thinking, how do I say this tactfully? Are you that old lady up front? And I was like, yeah. So that's always been my favorite line from him. Are you my older American fan? So I went, oh, and so they've chosen the older song for me.
It just happened to be in this time frame.
Yeah.
So just to,
No, I'm just teasing. It's a fact. The only thing is, I do wish sometimes they'd let us go in by age. I think that would be really nice if instead of.
So yeah,
maybe the only time I'd be happy about it.
So this was written by Rob, Kelvin, Rich Scott and Scott Ralph. It was the B-side to Go Gentle, which is the last of Rob's singles to actually come out on CD. So as far as I'm concerned, all the more reason to hold on to your CDs, because you can't get this song on iTunes or Spotify or Apple Music. It's only available on YouTube. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, B-sides are something that are very confusing to me. Because I didn't order individual CDs, I didn't know there were all of these songs out there. And everyone always would talk about B-sides, and everyone was an expert on B-sides. It's like, where do I get these songs? And I now have a list of them, but I certainly am not fluent in most of them. So that's just because I was lucky to get an album on a CD.
Yes.
But I didn't even know these B-sides existed. I mean, that sounds ignorant, I realize, but it's the truth.
Buy all the CD singles.
When Rob started, Apple Music wasn't a thing. Spotify, YouTube was kind of not really how it was today. So you couldn't, you wouldn't have been aware of all those. Yeah.
Right. So that's a really interesting fact that's the last one. So because yes, there are some songs I do know and I actually quite like, because I've had the odd, probably misordered, the odd CD of a single that I went, oh, there's another one of them has Tom Jones on it. I forget what that song is, the newer one, but anyhow, but so when you talk about B-sides, I'm quite intrigued, because that's a whole other Robbie area I have to investigate.
So what do you think of the song You Got Old?
Jocelyn, do you want to go first?
Well, I think the lyrics are very clever. I like the sound of it. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times now because I didn't even know about it before that. So I do think the lyrics are very clever. I'm going to have to pull them up a minute to talk about the piece that I particularly like.
Well, we'll go while you look that up.
Yeah, if you want to go on.
Yeah, I think it's a good, fun ditty with Johnny Wilkes. It's an incredibly rich orchestral arrangement on this one.
Yeah.
Particularly like the line, "You old git." Git.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, as we've talked about a few times on this episode, it's about another one of Rob's obsessions, age.
Yep.
Even when he was younger, I remember him back in the early days. He used to refer to it a lot, and now it's hair and age. So, and I keep telling him, as a bald guy, I keep telling him hair's very overrated. So, but
well, he asked everyone to get old with him. I mean, he knew it was inevitable. Some of us already started that way. So, I think I became his follower when I was already older than he is now, to be honest. So there you go.
It's got a definite.
But it's another one of those show tune sound kinds of things, because it's that duet and all of that. So
yeah, it's got definite old swing style, isn't it? With I can almost see Morecambe and Wise singing it. You can picture Rob and Johnny messing about like Morecambe and Wise, having fun. And the brass instruments give it a true kind of swing vibe as well, don't they?
Well, and it really is that back and forth that you would imagine they always had, that sort of, sort of taking the piss out of each other, Yeah. So, and they could get by with it. Although I don't know now what's going on with that, but that's another story for another day. But anyhow, I think it's a clever little ditty. Again, it's not probably my most favorite song ever, but I do think it seems like it should be on that, when he did the live swing show, his first one. And it seems like it should have been from that.
Yeah.
So, because it fits into that when he did all those songs. So.
I like the line, I meant to ask you, did it come in the mail? Your telegram from the Queen.
Yeah. That one was a good one.
And
you get a telegram when you're 100 years old.
Yeah. And there's ladies that think I'm a hunk. Are they religious because your hair's like a monk? Yeah. It's just a throwback to their first duet on the first Swing album, it feels to me. Like. Yeah. And I wonder whether it was planned to go on the album but it ended up as a B-side.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another one of those songs I have to pull out my bilingual, meaning that I know how to speak a bit of Brit or not understand a bit of Brit. So it's like, oh yeah, I know what that means about the Queen. I know that one. So, but yeah, it's a clever song.
Did you want to say anything about the lyrics, Jocelyn?
The best keep your clothes on since everything shrunk is...
Oh yeah, that's funny.
It's pretty awful.
Yeah.
I guess Rob has proven that on his new album cover. So, I wondered on that one how much he had to do, because he once on an Instagram showed how he squeezed his arm and stuff to make it look a certain way. And I wondered how many poses he managed to do with that. So but I keep forgetting there's this thing called editing. And, so no offense, Rob. I don't think anything has shrunk or gotten gross or anything, but so, okay, I don't understand. Okay, and I'm probably really stupid. I don't understand what all of the initials are that they use in the song.
Oh, they're what you mean YOUGO when they're doing that?
Yeah.
They're just pretending to spell and messing it up. That's all it is.
Okay, well, I got real confused because I kept thinking they were referencing something. So I kept going through the song going, okay, what am I missing? Is that like LOL? Is that just me being old and I don't get it?
Just
but there are too many letters.
Messing about, basically.
Yeah, they get it wrong, don't they?
Right.
Yeah.
They can't actually, YOUGOTOLD.
Oh, that's quite good. Well,
okay,
I'm
well,
reading
now I
it
don't
off
feel
my
so
sheet.
badly.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, now I don't feel so badly because I thought, oh, that's something I just don't understand. There must be some. Oh, that means.
I'd imagine they did a lot of takes of this because knowing how they used to be together, I just can imagine them just taking more of the piss out of each other than the actual song was about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. So, but yeah, but I think it's, they've touched on a lot of the things people have to worry about as they get older. Sadly.
So let's move on to Requiem
Yeah.
from Gary's album Since I Saw You Last.
Yeah.
Written by Rob and Gary Barlow, produced by Steve Power. Perhaps Steve was producing the planned Gary and Robbie album, which was supposedly going to be called Requiem, as he also produced Wedding Bells.
Yeah. Gary lost his father in October 2009, and this song was inspired by his funeral. He told the Metro, "We were all so upset, and I just looked up at the clouds and thought, if I know my dad, he's up there laughing at us all now. The idea for the song came from looking down and saying, come on everybody, it's fine. There's a bit of darkness in there, but mostly light. It's about just getting on with life." I really love this song. I think it's, because obviously I am a Gary fan as well. It just opens that album really well. And it really sounds like a Beatles song, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, I went one further than that. It sounds like a cross between Beatles and Electric Light Orchestra, like Mr. Blue Sky of style. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
I think it's just got really powerful lyrics and incredible music, and it's nice. It's kind of nice to think that maybe Gary's dad was looking down at them all at the funeral.
yes.
Or that anyone we've lost is looking down at us at the funeral.
Exactly.
But it's kind of interesting to think how much Rob actually contributed to the song, because it's surely quite a personal song to Gary.
Right.
But obviously Robbie helped him write it somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I had to look up the story behind the song, because when I first saw it and heard it, it didn't connect, and I was trying to imagine what the point was of this song. And so then once I saw it, then it just all fell into place and it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, but Rob does do a lot of songs. That was one thing, at least when I came on board, that he was always mentioning death in a lot of his songs.
Yes.
Either I don't want to die, or, and so it's like, to me, that was that kind of part of it. And I'm real curious about that. But no, I think it's a beautiful song. And I agree with you that it's nice to have that thought that that's how everyone's looking at it and they feel that way.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I did need to have the backstory on it before I could appreciate it. I'll be very honest. So, yeah, I like the line where it says, "I'm sad to go. Hope you enjoyed the show." It's sort of a tongue-in-cheek little. And there was one about going back where, I don't remember what it is now. I'd have to look, about going back and doing something. Maybe I just imagined that, so it doesn't matter. But
I like the line, "You'll die when you see my new place."
Yeah.
As in heaven. And the Lord's my shepherd.
Oh, I know what it is.
Oh, yeah.
It was they put a spread on, so let's all go back to mine.
Yeah.
So, that was sort of funny. Like, come on. So,
yeah, the Lord's my shepherd. Really, what a song to sing. Why bring me flowers when you know that I can't smell a thing?
Yeah,
I find that hilarious. It's lovely how they've written a really sad song but made it fun. Brought some lightness to it, as Gary said.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Okay, so should we go on to the last song, I think, of this episode, which is an interesting one.
Yes. I think Jocelyn might have referenced this. And I couldn't
find the lyrics to it.
No, you can't find the lyrics anywhere.
I could understand all the words.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I knew what they meant too. I was a little uncomfortable with some of the lyrics, I'm not going to lie.
No,
perhaps,
same.
and not because of a sexual motif, but because of some violence implied.
Yeah.
But, I have to say, every time Rob came on though and sang, I love that sound.
Yeah.
It was like, that's the voice I really like, and I like that sound,
Yeah.
So, So I did play it a few times for that. I'd kind of go down low on some of it, then move it back up.
So the song we're talking about is French Action Hero by the Connects.
Yeah.
And the Connects was Ida's brother Dylan's rap group with his friends David Dinetz in about 2012 to 2013. It was through Tim Metcalfe and Flynn Francis meeting Dylan in LA due to the Connects that Rob went on to meet Tim and Flynn. The Connects music got better overnight, so Rob asked Dylan to get Tim over. It seems most references to the Connects have been erased from history on the internet. You can't get their music on streaming services. Their Facebook page, which Lucy found a couple of months ago, has now been removed too. Their SoundCloud channel only contains playlists of other songs.
There is a Save the Connects YouTube account, though, which has a few of their songs on it, and that's where French Action Hero can be found. If you listen to it and you haven't heard it before, you might understand why it's hard to find.
Yeah.
French Action Hero contains vocals from Rob on the chorus. It's about Jean-Claude Van Damme. And as I recall from what I read on their Facebook page before it was deleted, they said they knew he was actually from Belgium and that saying he was French was being funny. That's in my memory. I'm sure that's what I read on that page. But that page just seems to have gone now. So yeah, it's not really my thing, but as Jocelyn said, I do like Rob's vocal and his melody in the chorus, his raspy voice on this one.
Well, and I even looked up thinking maybe French Action Hero is a whole genre. It's not really. I mean, there are French action heroes, people that are French stars that have been in action movies, that it's kind of a type of person. But as far as saying that there's a whole genre of that, doesn't seem to pan out, and maybe French people will tell us that's not right. But so I was trying to understand what kind of started this whole thing with this song.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
even Rob's chorus doesn't, it's sort of disconnected somewhat to the rest of the song.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's a mishmash.
I mean, I don't know what genre that other song is considered. Do you know? Do they consider it a rap song?
I don't know.
I don't know. It has a violent tone towards the end that I didn't really like.
Yeah.
And, but I did take offense to, and there's also a sexual tone, as we know. But yeah, Rob's voice comes out really nice and clear. It's just, I wouldn't want to play it too loudly if I had any kids around.
Exactly.
No.
You know. And again, that goes back to what we talked about earlier, that some of Rob's music has still, I think, confused an American audience sometimes because it's called pop music, but our version of pop music over here doesn't have any of those words in it.
No.
Baby, baby, I love you, or, you know, that I never connected to and went, yeah, okay. So, yeah.
I think
so. I don't think there was anything in the song I really connected to other than his voice. I'll just be honest.
Yeah, no. I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme was massive back in the day, and obviously he's referenced a lot in the song. So I guess he's the role for he's the French action hero, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of shows a bit of Rob's experimental side. You know, did we say Tim and Flynn had a little bit to do with it?
No, it's just he met them through Dylan.
Oh, that's right. So, but you know, the cool gang.
Yeah.
I like when he says "parler français" at the beginning.
Yeah.
As with you both, it's definitely not my type of song. I mean, it's explicit and offensive actually in places, because it's not just rude; it's actually offensive. Not what Rob sings, but what they sing.
Yeah.
And if anybody hasn't listened to it before, listen to it to understand what I mean, because I'm not going to say it.
But not with children about.
No. Lots of sex and drugs references. I don't think I'll be in a hurry to listen to it again. But if you haven't heard it before, it is worth listening to Rob's "I Want to Be Your French Action Hero" lyric, which he sings over and over and over again.
No, I agree.
And I have got one. Lucy, should I read it out? I've got one line just in case listeners haven't heard it. It's not too explicit, but a little, if you don't mind, Jocelyn.
I'm not offended.
If you don't have any rubbers, you better get some protection.
Yep.
This speed has given me a fucking full-on erection.
And that's Robbie that sings that line.
And I thought, okay, interesting line, Rob.
Line. No, that doesn't offend me at all. No, it's the one talking about a gun. And I just can't get behind that. It has nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
It's in his song. It's in a song that he's part of. Let's put it that way. But he doesn't say anything that offends me.
No.
So
But
I
it's
thought
very
that was actually a
possible
clever lyric.
that when this was recorded, they were both in completely different places, and Rob just did his bit, and that was it, and it got laid on the track, and but there we go.
Well, there's the one song. Is it? I can't think now. The other song he's done with Tom Jones, and they talked about they did them separately that way. So I think he does that.
Yeah.
With other people. So, but yeah.
So shall we move swiftly on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So let's talk about the Swings Both Ways live tour briefly. The arena tour opened on the 25th of April 2014 in Budapest. Robbie played 41 dates in Europe, 1 in Asia and 8 in Australia. The European leg included 6 nights in Germany, 3 in Austria, 2 in the Netherlands, Denmark, Finland and Switzerland, and 1 night each in Hungary, the Czech Republic, Italy, Norway, Sweden, Portugal and Monaco.
He played 17 shows in the UK, 2 each in Belfast, Leeds, Newcastle, Glasgow and Birmingham, 3 in Manchester and 4 in London. The Australian leg opened on the 11th of September with 2 nights each in Perth, Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney. He also performed 1 show in Singapore.
He told Chris Heath, "I want it to be show busy and have a sort of Saturday night 8:30 on the TV feel about it. I want it to be heavy entertainment. I'm really looking forward to it. People respond to me singing this so well. It's a real thrill just to perform this and have people buy into me doing it. It feels good up there on stage. So far I've got a list of songs. I know I want it to be really entertaining. I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at it."
The band featured Gary Nuttall on lead guitar, Guy on rhythm guitar and keyboards, Jerry on bass, Carl on drums and Tom on rhythm guitar, plus the Atlantic Horns, Ben Edwards, Mark Brown and Mike Kersey on brass, and backing vocalist Dinosh, Nayana and Sarah Jane. A children's choir from a local stage school joined him each night for High Hopes.
As Upfront launched just before the tour started, he would sometimes come on and talk about the tour. The show was divided into 2 parts with an interval between, and Rob said that his favourite part was the first half. And you could also purchase a live CD of the gig immediately afterwards. And Rob told Chat that a video of the tour was filmed in Manchester to be released on DVD, but it was never released, annoyingly.
I've never seen that.
So it's just sat in the archives somewhere.
Yeah. How frustrating is that?
Wow. And that's probably the first proper tour I did. And that was when I did the whole, sleeping in a tent and everything.
Yeah.
And, learned that whole routine. In fact, in Manchester, that was where he first called me out. And I remember kind of having my breath taken away. Because he, again, referencing my age, came across the stage after he did, because he did that whole Reet Petite and all of those songs. And so he came marching, and he would tell get up, get up, get up, get up, stop laying around, on the stage. And so he came over and said, excuse me, are you really from America? And I was like, yeah. And so it was kind of a funny little interaction there. And then when it got back to London, and I'm sorry to be so egotistical and tell these stories.
That's what we want to hear.
He called, he went down at that time I did not know Regine very well.
Yeah.
And so that was when he came down and gave her a nice kiss and everything. And then he came over because he was coming for Kelly next to me with some sweets. God knows he wouldn't eat those now, would he?
No.
But anyhow, and he turned and looked at me and he said, "Wait, you're my American fan." And so he did a whole spiel about, Robin Williams versus Robbie Williams.
Yeah.
And I do remember hugging him, asking if it was okay to hug. And he had that heavy jacket on. I thought, oh my God, how do you go and do all of this stuff with this heavy jacket on?
Yeah.
But then what was funny is he had this little patter that he gave about coming to see Robbie was. Well, then I saw a video that had American Paul in it, and he basically said exactly the same words to to Paul and I went, so that's your shtick for that. We're all but a player and you're playing.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so,
Oh, yeah.
And how many
so
times have we
it
heard
is,
him say that story about
Yeah,
my
and so
one
you
American
kind of
fan?
have that role. Now, I did feel honored that he remembered me, but at the same time, it was just so funny because it's like, yeah, so don't get too big of a head on anything because, yeah, you're just part of the show.
Yeah.
So, but no, that was where I did my first official and really caught the bug was that whole tour and learned all of the rules and regulations and settled on that lovely floor in Manchester that unfortunately had such tragedy later. But that's a picture I pull out every year to remind us how lucky we are we were there and, just enjoying life. So anywho, that's my little side note on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Jocelyn.
Yeah, so
I love that tour.
I went, I think 5 times to that tour because I went over to Belfast with Zoe.
Oh, okay.
Without me.
Yeah, without you.
Yeah.
Left you with the kids. And and I went over with Zoe and Kat to Belfast, and we only had tickets for the Saturday, but when we turned up, they had tickets available for that night. So we bought some tickets and joined the
How
queue.
fortunate.
And we were at the front of the queue and we only turned up in the afternoon.
Bloody hell. That doesn't happen these days, does it?
Nice. Wow.
So that was good. So we did 2 nights in a row, and the Belfast shows were just incredible. The audience there is always amazing. And the next day, on the Saturday, he came out and signed some CDs and remarked on how incredible it had been the night before. And I think that's why he came and signed some CDs, because he just was absolutely loving it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was so good. And then I did Birmingham with you, which I talked about before.
Yeah, I remember Birmingham quite well.
Yeah.
Nice organised venue. Looked after us very well.
Yeah.
Nice orderly line going in.
Yeah.
Quite a rowdy queue outside.
Yeah, it was.
Yes. Met a lot of our friends there.
And then also I did 2 nights in London, 1 seated and 1 standing. And my favourite moment was when Ollie popped up for I Want to Be Like You in London.
Oh, yeah.
Just loved that. Were you there for that night?
Was fun. Yeah, I did all of the London shows. I do repeat shows. When I travel over to a place, I just feel like I might as well do as many as I can. That's just part of why I'm there. So that's what I've even done in Australia over the years. So it sounds real extravagant, but at the same time, it's like, well, I'm already over here, so I'm going to do as much as I can. But yes, I did all the London shows. I did all the Manchester shows. And I can't remember where else I went. I actually wrote it down not too long ago because I wanted to remember how many shows I've been to. But and I think, well, no, not I think, I know. That was the first time I went to Australia. But my boys went with me. And so I flew from Sydney over to Melbourne. And it was going to end my time of seeing him. That was the end of the tour. And so the first night I had a seat. I think it was with Neve even. And I could see behind the stage. So that was kind of fun. You could see all the kind of action because they weren't the greatest seats. But then I got lucky the last night and got a seat up front. So I was able to do the barrier to end everything in Australia. But you're right. That was when queuing was very different because it was just queuing. I didn't sleep in a tent, I don't remember, but maybe I did. I think I just went early or something in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's always nice when you're a foreigner trying to, not so much in the UK, but in other countries, trying to explain why at 4:00 in the morning you want to leave your hotel to go to some stadium in the middle of the night. And they're trying to ask you, what don't you have a room? Or you're leaving the hotel with pillows and blankets. So, yeah. All of that has progressed just since I've been part of this whole Robbie community. The way
it has for everyone.
queuing has happened and all of the things have changed. I don't have an opinion on it one way or another other than it's changed. So,
it's a bit like the glamping version of queuing, right?
Yeah, that was the first tour I did. And I just, again, just absolutely loved it. So that kind of started everything for me. So
another bit that was my favourite part of that tour was when he would read the banners And he devoted a whole section
Yes.
to just talking to the audience and reading banners and interacting, signing people, doing selfies, kissing people. And he doesn't do that so much now, does he? Like, the tours since, he hasn't really done that so much.
No.
Not like a whole section like that.
Right. No. Well, I know he talked about doing that with banners. He wanted people to write just random, strange things.
Yeah.
Like my mom wears brown shoes. But it didn't really, I think it was right before the pandemic hit. So I don't think it manifested. And now everyone's kind of keeping a distance. So, although it looked like when he was at Soccer he came down. And
he did.
Got
a
together,
few lucky people.
We should have done one like this is a banner or this is a sign.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've done that somewhere before.
But he always said
you're
that,
right. He did do a lot of those.
He did say that the banter bit he actually found quite difficult to do. I'm sure I read that somewhere.
I suspect he was anxious about whether it would actually come off okay, because obviously that bit he's dependent on the crowd to make it happen.
Right.
Whereas his banter, he can say the same thing in the same spot and know it works.
Yeah.
But I do remember particularly Birmingham, I do remember the banter. It's just so funny.
Yeah.
And of course we were all just in hysterics and we knew everybody up and down the line and it was just fun.
Yeah.
There's something special about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is how Regine got her kiss, because she had a sign that said, "I'd like a cuddle," and he said something about, "Is that all you want?" And so then when he came down for that, then he came down to Kelly and signed her shoulder, which, anyhow, because I remember holding her top and, "Here, do this," being the mom again of, like being bossy bones here. So, but he did all of that stuff and would go down the line and do that. It was a lot of fun, but it probably is hard because I think most people, for him, it's probably hard because they're not really there doing banter back and forth with him or being funny. Probably the first row is, or the second row, but most people are like, "I love you so much. Oh, come," and that's probably hard to deal with. Like, how am I going to make some fun with this?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yes.
because he wants something to be funny with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, "Oh, here's my only American fan." No, I'm not, because you said this to somebody else the other day.
Yeah.
So.
There's a lot more American fans than people realise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of American fans that listen to our show, actually.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have learned that. It's a very, there are lots of different categories, which I guess we can talk again whenever we talk again. But there are lots of different categories of us over here, because there are those there's not a big group who travel back and forth to go see him. So that's a small little category. There then are the category, of expats that do that a lot. So to find someone who's really not expat that goes back and forth, that's kind of a smaller group.
Yeah.
And even when he came over here, a lot of the people who were in that audience were expats. And a lot of people who have never gone to see him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do anything here, they say. And so, there are lots of different levels of American fans I'm finding. And apparently his swing music is very popular. And I don't know if that still holds true, but when I first started learning about him, he was very well known in the swing community.
Yeah.
People knew who Robbie Williams was. So, it's a very strange little community over here. But he has a lot more fans here than he realizes. He just doesn't have a lot showing up at his shows.
Yeah.
Because they're not old and retired and can do that for their retirement.
Sounds like a great retirement hobby to me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I did once tell him that, what else am I going to, because when I did Vegas, I did several shows, which we can talk about sometime, I guess.
Yeah.
But I said, well, what else am I going to spend my pension money on? Come on. So that's been kind of my joke about spending my pension money on Robbie Williams. So those shoes he wears, I've helped pay for. So you guys too, but So that's I wasn't planning on it being my retirement. It just kind of happened. And actually, I used it for my retirement going away party. I did I played a bit that I was in on the Palladium show. I did the Miss Piggy part where she said, "What's a Robbie Williams?" And I showed myself. So everyone was vastly confused because they didn't know I was leaving. And they said, "So you're leaving to become an actress or what?" No. Oh, never mind. So I didn't convert anybody. I was trying to convert them over to Robbie Williams and have them all go, "Who is that amazing fellow?" No, that's not exactly how it happened. But yeah, sorry, Rob. But yeah, so he's a part of my life, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so are you guys. And so is all of the Robbie community, which makes me very happy. And
Absolutely.
I miss you all.
Well, we're going to see you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very soon.
hopefully so.
Yes.
Hopefully I'll be able to get, if not to Germany, definitely to London then. I should be able to get to Germany, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So, just before we wrap up this episode, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. And also, Lucy and I would really appreciate it if you can leave us a star rating. You can do this on both Apple and Spotify podcasts. We would also love it if you could write us a short review, and you can do this on Apple. Don't forget, you can check out our episode notes for each episode and links to all tracks and videos at robbiewilliamsrewind.com. You can also email us at email@robbiewilliamsrewind.com. Please also follow and chat on our social channels. It's at RewindRobbie on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. And you can also like and follow our Facebook page, Robbie Williams Rewind. And before we return to this episode, you might also consider sending us one of your own Robbie stories for the show. Just record a short audio clip on your phone and email it to us. Please check the website for more details. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So yeah, we've got to the point where we have to choose our favourite song from the show.
Yeah.
And as tradition, we always let our guest go first. Jocelyn, would you like to tell us what yours is?
Well, if I have to choose one, I will choose Fat Pop Star just because it has lots of memories for it and they're fun memories and the song makes me laugh. And yeah, I like that song and I like the sound of it too. So
Of
it has a
course.
lot of visual imagery.
Yes.
So,
You remember
take
his
that
great
one.
big fat behind when you were stood on the London Palladium stage.
well,
right?
actually, he had a big slit down the back. It was a foam suit, so all you could see was the big opening in the back. So. And I do believe he was clothed. So I don't see well, so don't go by my commentary.
And what are you going for then, Lucy?
Well, I will go for Where There's Muck
Right.
because I like
good.
that. I like the Kiss My Ass.
I
bit.
love that song.
And I think it just sounds great.
Good choice.
Yeah.
What do I choose? Honestly, I wasn't prepared here. Normally I know, or at least I've got a short list. Oh dear, what should I pick?
I mean, I can change mine if you
No,
want
I
Where There's Muck.
wouldn't do that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to pick Minnie the Moocher.
Oh, yeah. Good choice.
Minnie the Moocher. It's got a lot of energy. I know it's a
fun.
bit of a strange reference to drugs and weird opium-filled dreams, but I think the song is good.
Yeah, it
And I
is.
love the opening.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I think I have very firm, strong memories of the stage performance of that song. So yeah, that's got to go in there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good choice.
I agree. Yeah, those are good ones. Those are all the ones I like the best.
Yes.
So we
Except
need to...
I can't say back to him, yes, it does rain, or yes, it does snow in Indianapolis. But
Yeah.
what was it? Oh, the one where about happy people don't have sex in the one song. And I remember the front row used to sing back to him like, yes, they do. And at one point I remember he would go, no, they don't. I was like, stop screwing up our song. So that's what I always think of what that song was like. No, it does. It really does. So I know.
So thanks for listening. Tune into the next episode when we'll be joined by Andreas from Germany and we'll be talking about Rob's first Under the Radar album. Excitement.
Under the radar. Ooh.
But first, we've got to say thank you and goodbye to Jocelyn.
Yeah, thank you,
Well,
Jocelyn.
thank you.
We
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's
yeah,
a
we
pleasure.
really appreciate having you on, and we love queuing with you, and have loved getting to know you over the years. And you are one of our very dear Q friends. Well, you're one of our very dear friends.
Yes.
Nothing to do
Well,
with the
the
Q or
feeling is
Robbie,
mutual.
but that's how we met. So yeah, and it's lovely to relive memories with you because we love your stories, and yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love talking about them, and I'm so sure that it's like, oh God, that American voice.
No.
Because, we don't presume that we have an accent, but we do. So, but no, it's been lovely. I love anytime I can talk about Rob, because he's my boy.
Yes.
Well, one of my boys. And yes, I've loved, we can all tell who our real friends are because we've stayed connected even when we didn't have Robbie shows to do.
That's
We've
true.
all stayed connected in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Not just talking about Robbie stuff. So that's very special.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who mean a lot to me in Robbie world.
Yes. And we still remember the champion clothing that you guys when
Yes,
we were
thank
in
you.
Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still wear our champion
we have
t-shirts.
that every place here, so it's funny to always see it. Yeah, I think we all have those connection with names now. The champions always mean something, and yeah, so.
So thanks for joining
that's
us.
great.
Yeah, we'll actually be
Well,
having
thank
you on
you.
again as well, won't we?
Yes.
Good.
We're bringing you back
That will
for
be
our
fun.
special Las Vegas episode.
Of course.
Yeah, Las Vegas I was so happy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I wish you would do it again,
So do I.
but we'll see.
Yeah, let's see. So thanks very much, Jocelyn.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Get some rest.
See you soon.
You've had a busy weekend. Bye.
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 Robbie Williams Rewind.